Jon Stewart, thank you so much for coming on the program. Irresistible is genuinely an irresistible film, and we'll talk about it in a second. I just want to get your response very quickly to something that happened today, which is that John Bolton, another man who used to work for Donald Trump, got fired or resigned, we never know quite which, has now written a book about Donald Trump dishing the dirt. Does anything surprise you about this?
Completely. I had always thought Donald Trump was an incredibly stable and powerful rudder in these turbulent times. And to read differently was just, well, I can't tell you how shocked I was. I've always found his leadership to be calming and steady and very reasonable and not chaotic or crazy in any way. So to read that he may have been doing these things behind the scenes, well, you can imagine in America today, people are gobsmacked, as you might say. No, it all reads pretty much according to Hoyle. And, you know, the only disappointing thing is that he didn't say it under oath in front of a congressional committee.
And do these books make any difference at all in a tribal America where many people have kind of made up their minds about who they like and who they don't like?
If you remember, before the election, a tape came out where Donald Trump said, women, they like it if, you know, when you're famous, you can grab them in a certain area that you're not supposed to grab them. So I believe his character has already been litigated in America, and Americans have found him A-okay. So I find that, you know, the overwhelming weight of evidence supporting the fact that he may not be the stable genius he purports himself to be doesn't seem to have a proportional effect on how people who support him view him. In many ways, it's the opposite. It's a certain judo that the more that comes out reaffirming who he really is, the angrier they get that it's come out. Right. They view it as partisan and just a way of trying to get at a great man. And so it not only does it not have the effect you would think it would have, it actually hardens the support, oddly enough.
But one thing that Donald Trump was very good at, and I wonder if you think he's still got it now, is connecting with the kind of people that you represent in your film, in Irresistible. You know, those heartland, ordinary Americans, which, as it turns out, you know, end up having the last laugh. I don't want to spoil the end of the film. But he's very good at talking to those people, even though he's a billionaire from the Upper East Side.
I don't know how good he is at connecting with them as much as he is an avatar for, and maybe a conduit for disliking the same things that they dislike. Mm-hmm. So he carries their banner, perhaps, against the usual suspects, the globalists and the Hollywood elite and the coastal elites and the elite elites, and apparently now doctors. So, you know, it's the kind of thing where we find ourselves at a place in the country where wearing a mask over your face becomes a symbolic gesture of political fealty. And as far as I know, like, I'm pretty sure that's what surgeons wear in an operating room to keep germs from spreading. So I'm not exactly sure how it's become a partisan issue, but that's where we find ourselves, where normal expertise and basic sanitary practices have now become just another hill to fight in this trench war.
Donald Trump has been very good at generating outrage, the kind of the dopamine of his political campaign. And the more outraged we are, the more many of his supporters really like him. Does that trick still work for him in the era of COVID-19?
I mean, at a certain point, it may just be too exhausting. Look, I've always said about the Trump presidency, the presidency is supposed to age the president, not the country, but he's exhausting. It's just too much. I've personally been in Twitter wars with him from years ago. Like, he'll just wake up at 2 a.m. and call you a name. Like, all of his energy is put into vindication over his perceived enemies. I think the thing that people don't realize is, he's got a reputation as a counterpuncher, right? But he's not, because he doesn't distinguish between an attack or a criticism or a constructive criticism or just praise that's not worshipful enough. Mm. He's a tantrumer. He attacks Fox News, which is basically a 24-hour-a-day nuclear generator for a praise machine. They're not worshipful enough. So you cannot satisfy his bar that he has set.
So a little bit like the Sun King, I guess. So does that make him...
Very similar to the Sun King.
Does that make him invincible in the next election, or does it do the opposite?
Oh, that's all speculation. I mean, listen, nobody's invincible. It's like when people said to me 4 years ago, do you think Donald Trump can win? And I said, well, he's done the one thing you need to do to win, which is be in the election for president. It's only going to be one of two people. So does he have a chance to win? Absolutely. Does he have a chance to lose? No question.
As one of your characters, Gary, in the film says, elections are basic math. You have to do what the other guy does plus one. And as we know, Wisconsin, which is where your movie is based, was one of those states that never used to be a swing state and then suddenly became a swing state in the last election. So it's about a tiny slither of the electorate that could decide the future of your country and probably our country or our continent as well. So how's that going in the year 2020?
Well, I'm assuming you've been paying attention. Disastrously. We have a moment. The country is certainly divided. The Electoral College plays into removing ourselves more from look, we're a republic. We're a representative republic. We always have been. So a smaller and smaller portion of our population decide and carry the power for a larger point. He lost the general election by 3 million votes and won the presidency. So we are in a minority rule situation already, and it may get worse. I don't know.
I just want to talk about Black Lives Matter for a bit. Again, there was a funny bit in the film where they go through all the various focus groups of this really very small town. And the focus group of African-American voters is literally one guy. But seriously, Black Lives Matter, it seems to be a very big moment. How fundamental is the change that we're seeing here?
I don't think we'll know for years. What has taken generations to destroy is going to take generations to rebuild. And I think, we're not going to fix 400 years of racial strife and oppression and segregation and all the ills that befell our country in 3 weeks of an executive order saying you can use chokeholds, but try not to use them so much. That's the tip of the iceberg. We are going to need a tremendous amount of will, of stamina, and to be able to speak without defensiveness with each other. But it's a generational project. In a lot of ways, it's a Marshall Plan for the United States to rebuild what we've destroyed. And I think in the, unfortunately, the ephemeral world of Twitter and television news and 24-hour networks, I don't know that we have the stamina. I hope we do. I really believe we cannot consider ourselves an exceptional country if we create a permanent underclass, whether that be racial or economic. And I really hope that we have the will and the stamina to address it in a way that will be meaningful and will bring a sense of a more hopeful horizon to people. We're in a really troubling time.
Jon Stewart, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, sir.